It's Baxy's Musical Podcast.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Baxy's Musical Podcast. Describing the music of today's guest is like trying to describe the color blue. I can list off a bunch of things that happen to be blue, but I can't tell you why they happen to be blue. Nor can I tell you what blue looks like without showing you, which is kind of a problem because describing it to someone who's never seen it is almost impossible, and not so unlike the music of Robyn Hitchcock. I can tell you that I love Robyn Hitchcock's music, but I'm not sure my ability to describe it to you will even make sense or even do it justice. You almost have to hear it for yourself. On one hand, the music is surreal and psychedelic and consumed with a broad list of very obvious influences like the Beatles and Bob Dylan and Syd Barrett, Roxy Music and Captain Beefheart. And within all that, he's been able to create music that is completely and uniquely his own, where he's able to transcend those influences to sound like nobody else. How can you have it both ways? I don't know, but I think that's the mark of a real artist. And Robyn Hitchcock is a man with a tremendous gift of readily available creativity, stitching wonderful melodies with some of the most clever and unusual lyrics ever. Like the best of Dylan or Frank Zappa, his words provoke, perplex, and entertain in a way that sounds like neither of those guys. And with more than 21 solo albums to his credit, there are plenty of examples of his greatness. Robyn Hitchcock is a master, and he just keeps going. Whether it's from his early work in the late 70s with the Soft Boys, or with Robyn Hitchcock and the Egyptians, or his side project, The Venus 3, with Peter Buck from REM, or whether it was his 2019 collaboration with XTC's Andy Partridge, Planet England, we're talking about a guy who is both insanely and uniquely talented, who has inspired nearly 2 generations of songwriters throughout his 40-year career. Robyn Hitchcock not only tours incessantly, he's also been the subject of 2 documentary films. He acts, he paints, he collaborates, and still has time to write some of the most engaging and entertaining songs of his career, including his highly anticipated upcoming album on Tiny Ghost Records called Shufflemania, which is due out on October 21st. The first 2 singles, both Shuffle Man and The Raging Muse, are rich, inventive, and vintage Robyn Hitchcock. And Robyn is going to try to talk about as much of that stuff as we can squeeze into a half hour. This is my conversation with the legendary Robyn Hitchcock on Baxy's Musical Podcast. Hey, Robyn.
Hi, Dad.
How are you?
Oh, I'm still here. How are you?
I'm doing fine. It's good to see you. We have a friend of mine, a guy I've known for quite a while, lives in Northampton, Massachusetts. And he recently posted pictures last summer of you having lunch with Lloyd Cole, who I just found out like 2 years ago lives in this area. And you guys were up in Northampton, Massachusetts. And had I known, I would have been happy to pay for lunch for you guys.
And your friend is probably Jim Neal.
Jim Neal. Right? Yeah, I've known Jim for quite a while.
Yeah, me too. He was... he's from that area. He went away and he came back. So
yeah.
We're not doing a video.
No.
Not making sense. Wonderful. That's terrific. Okay.
I find that most people are happy that it's not going to be a video podcast.
I think once you're over 40, moreover, the higher the number, whatever it is, I don't know.
Yeah. Tell you, I don't know why you keep doing this to me, but I cannot get Shuffle Man out of my head. And it's one of those earworms that the Robyn Hitchcock catalog tends to keep feeding me, and has since Underwater Moonlight. I love the new song. I think it's fantastic.
Oh, well, thank you. I mean, I'm glad I'm glad it's landed on you, if you like. It's have you heard the rest of the album or just the single?
I've just heard the single, and the Raging Muse are the only 2 songs that I've heard so far, and they're both they're both great. So
thank you very much. Yeah.
So tell me about that. I mean, you have the ability to write these pop songs that do resonate. I mean, it took me 2 years to get the Yip song out of my head. When you're writing music, does that sense of melody come easy to you, or is it like a long, hard process to get a song out?
No, I think if there's a melody, it's actually there pretty much from the get-go. Actually, Mike, I think the song cracks its way out of the egg with the melody, even if I happen to have written the lyrics first. And very often I'll go through my lyric book and just sing what I've written down, But then also very often the song will appear and I'll have the book in front of me. So I write down the words as they come through, like taking dictation. What was that? Hang on a minute. But then but I'll change it. I've learned after about 40 years of songwriting or so, I realized I should write in pencil, because then I can just it saves crossing out. You just erase it. So the Shuffle Man, I don't think I changed many words. I think it's very much as I wrote it. But honestly, I can't claim much credit. They appear. um, and I suppose I'm very bad at making decisions. So it's all on instinct, really. This is working, this isn't. So you quite quickly chop bits out. And occasionally you'll chop out a good line.
Right.
And you often find, someone like Bob Dylan, who is at the sort of root of all trees, really, and the father of everything. There's people find alternative versions of songs with, oh, actually, I really preferred that line that he had in the first version of "Idiot Wind." It's a shame he took that out, and all that stuff, Boy, but anyway, thank you. I'm glad you like it.
No, I really do. When you write lyrics, I've read other interviews where it said, that in some ways it's kind of like a stream of consciousness thing. It just kind of comes to you. You write it down, and 40 years after doing it, do you still do it that way, or are you writing songs where the meaning is something for the listener to discover, or is there more behind that?
I think the meaning is there for me to discover, really. I simply hook up to where the words are coming from. They could be transmitted from Alpha Centauri. I don't know what I'm basically receiving them. I guess one part of me is receiving them from another part of me. Sometimes, I'll write them down and I think, well, I can do better than that. I've probably got default ways of filling a word out, filling a line. So this morning I was writing one and the train was coming in at platform 3, which was obviously there because of a rhyme. And then I think I sort of I changed it to never freeze or something, just because that made more sense. But actually, I honestly can't remember how I wrote, what my technique was 40 years ago or so, but I think it was much the same. I was filling up notebooks, most of which are gone now, but there's still quite a few sheets. I used to write on typewriters. I remember typing out the lyrics to Kingdom of Love, and I don't know if I actually wrote the whole thing on a typewriter or had I written it first. You have those early soft boys. I've still got the type script. I think you also, the other thing is, you write the basic thing. I write the basic thing, and then it's singing it a few times, and you'll find uncomfortable sequences of words. I'm going to change this to with or out of or for, or actually I'm going to take those two words out because it's like, let's have a little gap here. That's the sort of thing that I think I'm actually getting better at that all the time. But it may be just that my memory is so addled that I think I'm doing it. Oh, look what I've just discovered. It's an orange. Yes, dear. Here's a photo of you holding one yesterday. Oh, great.
As a guy who's just admitted that you have a hard time making decisions, when you're writing a song, I'm going to imagine it must be torture for you at some point to say, well, this works, this doesn't, this is right, this is not right. How much pressure do you put on yourself to make those kinds of decisions, or does the decision making not really interfere with the way you write music?
I think it's easier if one happens after the other. The hardest thing is if you're writing something down for the first time. You're two verses in, two and a half verses, and you feel like what you say determines where it goes next,
Right.
which gives you a bit more responsibility. Do I want to take this song in that direction? That's when it's harder. If I simply write down four verses and then I come back a month later and I go, this is naff, this is a good line, that's easier. It's so much easier to revise songs, music. I think probably books, probably pictures, paintings, anything. You can go back a couple of months later and time shows you what you need to do to edit it.
Yeah.
But the problem, and it probably applies to people writing a story as well. Okay, if I make that guy go to the post office, then maybe he's not going to meet that girl, and then we're not going to find about what happened to her brother, or the whole. Which is another reason I could never write a novel, because the consequences would be too much. And the other thing I don't understand is if characters are strong enough, then they have free will and they could just do what they wanted. They could walk out of your story. But novelists have that gift of synthesizing real characters and somehow making the novel. I don't know how they do it, that's why I write songs instead.
When you collaborate with people, and you've done quite a lot of that during your career, I hear what you're saying about the way you write music, but then I also know you've collaborated a lot with a guy like Andy Partridge, and the way he writes is pretty unique. How is your process of that different from his? And do you feel like the two of you meld well together in the way that you've worked?
Oddly, he's one of the few people I can actually write a song with. We can sit down like Lennon and McCartney allegedly did, or Johnny Marr and Morrissey, sort of eyeball to eyeball. I think Andy's got a very quick mind, as I think I have, rapid breeder heads. And so we can think fast enough to go somewhere,
Yeah.
and we're both quite chatty, so it's not like one of us is sitting there kind of brooding and going, "Oh, I don't know, we're just gabbling away, like sort of two highly strung pensioners. And but I think what writing with Andy is an exercise. I don't think I write anything with him. They don't feel that emotional. They feel more cerebral. They feel more like an idea in the head. Not to say that there isn't a feeling that comes off the music, but I think it's just harder to do that. But we've done it when we started a second lot, got a couple of demos down, and then the pandemic struck, and then Andy didn't like vaccinations and stuff, so I really didn't want to go up there. And I'm not sure. I hope we'll resume. We're used to kind of having long gaps and sort of quick bursts. So, the dream would be to finish a whole album. But I mean, hopefully in this lifetime. But you never know.
I hope you do, because I really like Planet England a lot. See, I even have it right here.
Oh yeah.
But I've interviewed him before, and a couple of the guys from XTC, and they all talk about the synesthesia that he has, this ability to kind of have a confluence of senses, kind of inform where he's going to go lyrically with music or with the lyrics or whatever it may be. When you write with a guy like that, do you find that to be challenging to either tap into what he's doing, or is it just like you say? I mean, it's easy to write with him, but I got to imagine it also poses some difficulty too, because it sounds like the way he writes, once he has something in his head, he's going for it.
Yeah, possibly, and he may find me a bit tangential, and he might be a bit more rooted than I am. But we're sort of fairly. I mean, I don't think we could have done it, 30 years ago. But I think as a couple of old fellas, No, we were definitely in our 50s when we first started doing stuff together. Probably mid 50s, you know.
Yeah.
So we've definitely come to it as senior dudes, and and I think there's, you know, that's the nice thing of being with people of your own generation, is really that they're just still there, still alive, you know, and you can look back on things that other people have either read about or never knew. You know,
Yeah.
it's that thing, and you know, until you two go over the waterfall, you know, you're in parallel boats. So, but I don't know. Actually, funnily enough, even writing with Andy, I'm kind of unaware of what's happening while we're doing it. There's a sort of state of grace that you seem to enter, or I seem to enter when I'm writing, where I don't really know what I'm doing, and if I became self-conscious, I might just fall to earth. And it's like my dreams when I'm flying, and then once I realize I'm flying, I just get lower and lower and lower, and in the end I'm just swimming on the grass. And I sort of look around and say, I'm not really flying, am I? And people say, no, you're not, you're just swimming on the grass. But to begin with, I was flying. You know, I feel like that's a self-consciousness dream.
It's been 5 years since the last time you released an album, which is, I believe, the longest gap you've taken. Obviously, I don't believe you've had any pandemics in between records, but 5 years is a pretty substantial period of time for you.
Well, I was working on a collection of piano songs back home in Nashville. Piano is not my first instrument, and I didn't seem to be able to come to any sudden conclusions. I just kept working on them. I played one or two of them, versions of them live, but they hadn't quite gelled. And I was in no hurry to put out another record because I'd put out so many, and I thought self-titled, you know, Robyn Hitchcock was actually a pretty good record. And at this stage, bringing age into it once again, every record you put out might be your last. So I thought, well, if I don't get anything else out after Robyn Hitchcock, I think that's a pretty damn good bookend. You know, I felt it was like an echo of Underwater Moonlight from whatever, 35 years before, 40 years before. And I was just working on this piano record, and I still haven't finished it. And then I began to. I went to Mexico, and I went to Tulum, and I went to the Palace of Kukulkan, aka Quetzalcoatl, the feathery serpent god, the sort of snake with wings, and he seems like a flying fertility symbol, basically, kind of, you know. And I went to this old collection of stones, which was still there, you know, very, very low windows and doors, because people were much smaller then. Probably all sorts of atrocities happened, but the building's still there, and there's quite a strong sense of the divinity. And then I had a massage in a tree house, and they said, what do you want? And I said, oh, I'll have the feathery serpent god massage. They said, there you are, Gov, that will be $50 or whatever. And my back got a big workout, and then I thought no more of it. And then I was in a hotel in Florida about 3 weeks later, and suddenly, like, it was as if the kind of alert signal in my brain, you know, you are now receiving, pick up your notebook, Hitchcock, whoomph, you know, and pick up your guitar, Hitchcock, what have you written, sing it, you know. There I had the song in like 10 minutes, basically.
Amazing.
Yeah, I probably spent another month or two pruning it and trying to write extra verses that weren't necessary, and, you know, all that those sort of quagmires you can find yourself in. Oh, is this all? I think I'll try writing another 10 verses just in case. No, the first three are good enough. All right. And there I was, and that song "Feathery Serpent God" is on the record, and then the rest of them came through, and you know, I was sort of locked down after a while, but I just kind of carried on. I was uncorked. I was like a chiropractic thing in the back, you know. There was like some kink had been rectified, and I just, you know, the shuffle man turned up, and the Raging Muse, and yeah, I had all those songs were written in 2020, and I'm still writing them, and they seem to be okay. I put them up on Patreon. You know, if when they exist at least on a Patreon form now, and if there's time and everything goes well, I'll do another album. Since you asked, long story long.
Obviously, when you write songs from 2020, there's probably a few that are being cooked right now. When you're on the road, are you like one of those guys that has a hard time writing on the road, or you just do it?
I have written a lot on the road and I quite like it. The ideal circumstance is actually to find yourself in a hotel. You come into town the night before and you get up in the morning and the gig isn't till you sound checks at 4, so you've got all day to yourself in a hotel room with an infinite supply of coffee and no big responsibilities, no one to see, and all the tendrils that are normally around you aren't really there. I, touring it is a bit. I mean, I toured a lot between 2015 and 2019, and I didn't actually finish very many songs. So maybe too much of that is, fragmented state of mind kind of thing. So, maybe that's why I just keep going back to these piano songs, which I'm still working on.
With Shufflemania, you had a good deal of help. Guys like Johnny Marr and Brendan Benson from the Raconteurs, and Sean Lennon, and even a couple of your old bandmates from the Soft Boys. Yeah, which I think is really cool. I mean, that you're still working and have a good relationship with those guys.
Oh, definitely. And the fact that everybody was at lockdown meant that everybody was available. So I bought my little 4.5 track machine, and I recorded the vocals and guitars, and then I just sent them off to people. And Brendan Brendan Benson sent them back with a complete band in the background. He'd done bass, drums, lead guitar. Brendan's everything on the Shuffle Man. The only thing on the Shuffle Man is the lead vocal and that wobbly rhythm guitar.
Wow.
There's 2 tracks of me and 2 tracks of my electric. And Brendan is all those, got the picture and all that, Brendan and the Bensons. And then he's on another track as well. And he actually said, "Oh man, I want to make it sound like the Soft Boys." So I thought, "Oh, okay." So I got in touch with Kimberly Rue, and I sent him a couple of tracks, and he did guitar on it. Maurice Windsor's on One Day. Johnny Marr, I sent him a track, and I just sent him a phone recording, and he sent the whole thing back covered in drums and all the stems. So I then had to re-record my part, but it's fine because he probably put it in time, which I probably wasn't. So Johnny's the band on that, and then Sean Lennon is on One Day. He played drums and vocoder and lots of tropical noises and a bit of bass. But then my guitar turned out to be not very good, so we had to get someone to. So what Sean was playing to is no longer there. But what I then played to, and Charlie on the piano played to, is Sean. So Sean did a very good job of playing along to a rather wobbly guitar track. I mean, they all did, because my sense of time isn't great, and I'm not using a click track. But the people are all good. They were all there because they had nowhere else to go. So they were captive. It was a very it's the first time I've ever made a record without going into the studio. We did one. Emma and I went into Abbey Road, and we did a day each of vocals, and there's a song called Socrates in Midair that you'll hear, and that's done at Abbey Road.
I've actually heard a couple of things that you and Emma have done, and it's really beautiful stuff. She's got just a beautiful voice.
She has very much that, and that kind of really raises my game. She came in after I'd done the basic thing and then listened to my vocals and made me redo about half of them, just so they were in tune. And because some of my records I just I've been too engulfed in the headphones, or nobody's had the heart to tell me, actually, Hitchcock, you're a bit off, So this record has actually, although it started as a series of home recordings, this record has actually been through quite a lot of ringers. It's been quality control. And Em is fantastic to sing with. We're both lead vocalists, so it's not like she's in there as the backup singer.
Yeah.
And we are very, very slowly working on a collection of sort of duets, which I think will be good fun. And we have our show on, this month it's on Saturdays, but usually it's Wednesdays. You can find us on Mandolin live from Tubby's house. That's what Tubby's one of our cats. That's what we started doing when lockdown happened. So Emma is really, in so many ways, the brains of this whole organization.
But thank goodness your wife is telling you exactly what you need to do, because I'm the very same way.
Em's had a lot more. She just understands a lot of the Mondo laptop and the internet world and stuff.
So the new album, like I said, you had a lot of help with it, and it's kind of morphed its way through. I know you're touring Europe for a while, and then you come back to the States for like a real brief period of time. Are you looking to do something in 2023, or are you going to take a break after that?
We're definitely I'm gonna do some US dates in 2023, but I'm not sure which end. It might now be the second end, really, because it's a very crowded field at the moment. People, there are still, because my listeners tend to be on the liberal side, and COVID aware and everything like that. A lot of people were either wearing masks or just not wanting to come. So last time I played in LA, it was hardly anybody turned up. It was just kind of like, people are very understandably, given that we were in the middle of 2 years ago, we were in the middle of a fatal pandemic, which is sort of, if you step outside your house, you might die. Unless you happen to be a Trumpista, in which case it's totally different.
I think now, and I can only speak how things are in the Northeast, I think people are so anxious and grateful to be out that they are showing up in pretty big numbers, maybe not to the extent that they used to be. But yeah, I'm finding when I go out, you can easily get a couple thousand people out at an event or a festival or whatever.
Really?
Yeah. So I think things are kind of turning a little bit.
Well, that's good. I mean, I did go out last fall, which, both here and in the States, and that was really extraordinary to even be stopping at gas stations and going into hotels and all these things, having audiences masked, be in a darkened room full of masked people was pretty weird, but there they were. But I don't know. I should be out. I'll be out either in the spring or definitely the fall next year. And there'll be. But I've just been in Massachusetts. Oh, Emma and I. Well, Emma's touring a bit now as well. So we did some. I am either Emma's band or half of it at the moment. So yeah, that's why we were in Massachusetts. Oh my God. Okay. Yeah.
That would explain it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, in one form or other, we're always everywhere. We try to be.
Well, Robyn, it's a real pleasure to talk to you. Best of luck with the record. I'm really looking forward to hearing the rest of it.
I think it's pretty good. It's got a variety of moods and colors. It's not all rocking stuff,
Yeah.
But it's not really. It's not too down. It's a reasonably up record. I think it keeps people company and leaves them in the right way up. I hope so. Say hi to Jim Neal.
I will.
And come and see us next time we're in your area. Just blip us and we'll put you on the door.
Sounds good.
And have fun with it. I am going to. I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to just. If you escape, I'll just turn the machine off or something.
All right, sounds good. Thank you very much, Robyn. Appreciate the time.
You're very welcome. See you next year, if not before.
The name of the new album by Robyn Hitchcock is called Shufflemania. It's out on October 21st. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, like it, share it, review it, tell all your friends about it. You can reach me at bax@rock102.com. I'd love to know what you think. And thanks again for listening to Baxy's Musical Podcast.